Misty, I'd love to start with you. It's amazing. You know, we've all known you as a dancer for so many years, and now you're expanding your creative capacity and stepping into this new role as film producer. Tell us how you prepared for that new role, and maybe what was something challenging or surprising about this new part of your artistic life?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. We made this film for the community, for the Bay Area, so it means so much to have you all here, and hopefully you enjoyed it. When I think about my career, my life, in its entirety, I'm still a dancer, but it's all connected to the same mission and goals and purpose. It's to find an entry point for people to see themselves a part of this community in dance, to have more diversity, to give a voice to those who haven't been celebrated or haven't been seen. And I feel like there's so many ways to do that. It's not just about being a dancer and being seen and as representation on the stage, but how can I do that in other realms? And so all of this wouldn't have come to fruition in any way if it weren't for my best friend and my producing partner, Layla Fayez, we met 23 years ago as ballerinas at American Ballet Theater, and then she left the company and went into television as a producer and writer, and came to me with the idea of starting Life in Motion Productions. She said, there's so much that you have to say and that you represent and that we can do, and what better way to bring more access than through film and through television by putting dance in this medium. So it's felt like a very seamless transition in terms of the content that we're creating. But yes, there are so many challenges and obstacles, specifically with this film. I mean, we came up with the concept 5 years ago. We came out to Oakland to start to really understand the community, connect with the community, in 2019, and then the world shut down. And so we were raising money, making the film throughout the pandemic. So that was a huge challenge. And just really figuring things out on our own. This was our first film that Layla and I produced. This was independent. We did all the fundraising. We brought all the creatives together on our own. And so we really were just, learning as we were going. And then, of course, there were, and I look to Lauren now because one of the bigger challenges was that our director and entire crew pulled out 3 weeks before we started filming. And thank God, because we found Lauren. Yeah, and there have just been so many amazing things that were meant to be, that meant to happen, and having a woman come on board, and someone who knows the community, knows the turf dancers, has shot dance on film, a lot, and then having Alonzo King come in and bring us Babatunji was also like such a huge blessing. I'll stop talking now.
It's amazing you touched on so many things, one of which is the fact that this film is almost entirely led by women, and that's not something that we see often in the film industry. So maybe Lauren Finerman, the director, can tell us a little bit about what that dynamic was like, and was that intentional, or was it just a happy accident?
Yeah, working with all women is kind of an incredible thing. It's something that we don't often get to do in the film industry. I know this is an absolute first for me, having female producers bringing on a female director to make such an impactful, big movie. And Layla has been such an incredible leader, Misty as well, in really setting the tone. And making it such a safe space to create. And I think that's the most important thing in filmmaking, is having a container in which you can create in. So
Absolutely, and great answer. And you saw that comfort and that safety come across in the film. And I imagine that another reason why everyone felt so comfortable in the film is because many of you have known each other for a long time. Isn't that right? Alonzo, I think you met Misty over 20 years ago.
Misty says she was...
Much more than that, I think.
I think Misty said she was 16, but to me she looked like she was 12. It was at a master class in...
Modesto, California.
Yeah. I remember. And I kept trying not to give her too much attention. I mean, she was so gifted. And I kept saying, well, I don't want to freak her out, and I don't want to make the other kids feel bad, but... This one is super special.
No, it's been incredible to have met you. I was going to talk like you're not here, but to have met you, so long ago, and and then the first time that we really worked together, I think I was 21 years old, and then I came on tour with his company, with Lines Ballet, and I would just say that time spent with you, like I'd never experienced, coming from the classical ballet world where you're to fall in line, and you're not often given independence in your individuality as an artist. And it was the first time that I experienced that, was working with you, and you pushed me and you challenged me to create on stage. And I remember you saying to me before I went on for my first performance, and you said, I don't want to see the same performance twice. And that's an incredible freedom that has impacted me as an artist. And then to come back together all this time later, and it was just such an incredible creative process. And then to be able to have Lauren be in the studio with us, it was such a collaboration, I would say,
it's fantastic.
overall.
It's really fantastic.
It was honestly a dream come true, walking into a studio with the two of them. Can you even imagine?
I would be so nervous. Alonzo, tell me about the experience of watching Misty evolve over the years. You've known her longer than probably most anyone in this theater. How has she changed?
I think she has, with most good training, what you become is yourself. And she has become more and more herself. She's not a knockoff. She's not an imitator or a clone. She doesn't look like this or that one for approval. She's an original. And that's what we all have in us. And it takes guts to love yourself enough to step into your larger self. And she certainly has done that. And a part of her magnanimity is humility and largesse. She's inclusive, and it's hugely important. This is the first time that I've seen the film in its entirety, and when the person who was unhoused said that the most difficult thing, they didn't mention not having food, not having a roof over their head, they said, the hardest thing is people look down on us. That was so deep. Because how do we look at people? Can anyone be a nobody? Is that possible? So that was very, very profound. And I don't think Misty has that look, that anybody could be a nobody. Nor does Tunji, nor does Lauren, nor does Layla. It's really important how you see people. What are people? It's a big deal.
So eloquently said, and I'm glad you brought this up because I found it interesting that the entire film was silent, except for that one important part. And maybe, Lauren, maybe you can tell us about that decision to make a silent film and to break that rule for that part.
Yeah, so I was so excited to make this film, and then Layla and Misty let me know that it was a silent film. And it's like, oh wow, all new challenges all over again. And what I kept coming back to is, how do you tell authentic stories of a community? And Layla was so wonderful to be able to work with an organization around unhoused people, and we worked with them to interview unhoused people. And at the time, we weren't even entirely sure what we were going to do with it. We just knew it was important. And once we heard their stories, it was so clear that this kind of had to be the centerpiece of the film. And what better way to actually hear their voices and hear their stories and give a voice to those who are usually silenced. And so it was really incredible to have the creative freedom to make that choice and to be supported and to have had that access. And I think that it's something that everyone comes away from the film really feeling.
Absolutely, and this social issue of the housing crisis in the Bay Area is something that we're all somewhat familiar with, and it's something that's very personal to you, Misty. Can you tell us about your connection to Oakland and to this particular issue?
Yeah, when we decided we wanted to make a film, a silent film, we didn't really know, what that would look like, and it took us a while to wrap our heads around, taking this concept of a ballet, because to me this is a ballet. This is a contemporary ballet that has an important, relevant social issue at the centerpiece. And when we understood we wanted to do an art activism piece, I felt that Oakland was such an incredible community to highlight. So my husband is born and raised in Oakland, so I have that connection, and I've spent a lot of time, within the community, and have seen not just, the despair, but the incredible rich history, of social justice and of activism, and I just felt like this was such an incredible backdrop to have to the story. And then once we really got this story, it started to evolve. Then I started to find connections within my own personal story. But it wasn't the plan that we were trying to, make this based on my life in any way. I experienced being houseless for a lot of my childhood. And I think what I have taken away from that experience is that I found so much hope in community within ballet. And I feel like that's what I want people to see within this film, is that there is hope, and that you can step back and outside of yourself and have a little more empathy for others, and understand that everyone's going through something, and I guess to have less judgment.
Well said. Very well said. And Alonzo, I know you feel strongly about art activism. This has been a part of your life in the past. Yes. Can you tell the audience a little bit about how do you think art should play a role in some of these important, complicated, often misunderstood social issues?
I think that when we look at people, we have to see ourselves. That no matter who it is, whether it's prince or pauper, that you identify and say, that is me somewhere. Even there are people who we may dislike the way that they behave, but it means that there's a trace of it within us. And that's the first thing that has to be eradicated before I point the finger and denigrate someone. I have to say, is there a strain of that in me somewhere? And so that's the first work. Is there even a fragrance of it in me? Because I'm exhibiting it right now by disliking this person, right? And so how can I remove that? You'll often go to peace rallies, and they're not very peaceful. And so it's like, if you really want peace in the world, you have to establish it in yourself. And peace really means that we're at war, and it's usually with ourselves. And so we have to bring that sword and say, what in me is troubled and inharmonious? That's the first canvas that you need to fix.
Start with yourself. Start inward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we all noticed the incredible music throughout the film. It was an original score by Raphael Saadiq and Burwood Music, is that right? And I'm sort of curious what the story is behind the music, because there was this repeating phrase, "I'm here now." Maybe Misty, I know you worked closely with Raphael. Can you tell us what was the meaning behind that?
I mean, I feel like everything in the film was really up for interpretation, and that there was no real defining, Raphael telling me what he meant by anything, or me telling him that things needed to be a certain way. It was really, truly a collaboration with everyone. I wanted everyone to have a voice. We would meet for these weekly Zooms. I'm sure you remember them. There were so many of them, and I wanted everyone to have, Layla and I wanted everyone to have a part in creating this piece of art. So, Raphael, I think the story is that he was in the studio, Rich and Tone choreographers were in the studio with Babatunji, and I think they played a song, and they were trying to figure out which tracks they were going to give for Babatunji, and I think that song came on, and they said, "Oh, this song needs to be for Misty." So it was something that had already been created before this film came about, but it just made so much sense. And I think, for my character, it's really about like being present and being in the moment and not just kind of going about this routine. Her life is difficult, and sometimes you fall into that, zone of just, going through the motions. And I feel like Tunji's character, and I think of him as this representation of Oakland and community, kind of bringing her back to herself and saying, like, "I'm here now, be present," because that's how you can be even more there for your mother or for your community.
I'm glad you brought up your mother, because we know how complicated mother-daughter relationships can be, and when those scenes in the home came up on the screen, it was a very different atmosphere. Lauren, how did you work with the cast and crew to create that different tone and reveal that complicated relationship between mother and daughter?
Something that's so beautiful about this film is that there are no words, and I think so much of our world relationally don't have words. So much of our communication with our parents even don't have words. And I had the pleasure of working with Christina Johnson.
Incredible.
And after rehearsing with Alonzo, we would then go into acting scenes. And so the creative juices were really flowing in the room. And Christina was really able to step into themes and work in ways that, some of the most talented actors in the world work. And, she was just able to step right in. And then put her and Misty together. It was magic. So it was a lot of collaboration in coming up with their dynamic and how they worked together and how the story was told.
Truly an all-star cast. So I know you've been showing the film at festivals all summer long. It's gotten rave reviews. We're so pleased that you brought it home to Oakland and San Francisco for the West Coast premiere, is what we're calling it. And what's next for the film? Where are you off to?
You will be in the Hamptons next weekend.
Hampton International Film Festival.
I'm available if you need a moderator.
It's an Oscar qualifying festival. There have been a few that we've been a part of this year.
And who knows? I mean, we have so many ideas and so many things that we would like to do with this film, or to kind of create our own genre of filmmaking and do more like this that are highlighting a community and a social issue, and then really bringing in creatives and from that community and highlighting whatever art form it is.
Misty, I know you have 100 irons in the fire, so I imagine your production company is already thinking about the next film, can you tell us a little bit about what you have, what we can look forward to, maybe a sneak
I'm looking at
preview?
Layla, my producing partner, and she's like, we can't talk. No, we have a lot of amazing content and things like in creation, in development. They're not all dance related. You know, we really want to be able to just create authentic stories, you know, celebrating women of color, telling stories that haven't been told in jest, whether it's past, present, or future. And it's just exciting to be able to work with an incredibly strong woman and make content that we feel our children would be happy seeing.
Kudos to that. I think that's the perfect place to end. I could talk to you all night, but you know, we have to let our beautiful audience members go. We have to wrap this evening up, unfortunately. However, there are so many more wonderful films in the festival for all of you to experience. So please check out the information and tickets at sfdancefilmfest.org. And thank you so much to our wonderful guests. You made this evening incredibly special. Thank you, everyone. Good night.